Wherever you're watching this from in the world, there's a high likelihood that you've consumed something owned by Nestlé during your lifetime. For instance, did you know that both Häagen-Dazs and Dreyer's ice cream fall under the Nestlé umbrella? How about Cheerios, DiGiorno pizzas, Maggi noodles, Perrier or San Pellegrino water? Yep, all of those brands, despite seeming to be their own thing, are actually owned in whole or in part by the massive conglomerate that is Nestlé. These guys have their fingers in a lot of corporate pies, and pretty much everything else too. But just how big are they, and do they deserve the reputation as one of the most hated companies in the world, as some people claim them to be? Keep watching to find out. But before we continue, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be the first to be notified of new behind the business videos that we post every week. Let's begin. Before we get into the really juicy stuff, and there's plenty of that, trust me, let's take a quick look at how Nestlé came to be. The story goes like this. In 1866, two brothers from the United States named Charles and George Page established the Anglo-Swiss Condensed Milk Company. Using fresh milk from Switzerland, they began to produce and supply condensed milk to towns in Europe under the Milkmaid brand, advertising it as a safe, long-life alternative to fresh milk. 1 year later, in 1867, a German-born pharmacist by the name of Henri Nestlé launched a product in Switzerland called farine lactée. Consisting of cow's milk, wheat flour, and sugar, it was intended for consumption by infants who couldn't be breastfed, in an effort to combat high infant mortality rates at the time. A very worthwhile cause, I think you'll agree. It was around this time that Henri Nestlé started using the iconic Nest logo on his product. A fun fact is that he used his family's coat of arms as the basis for the logo in order to protect his product against imitators. The word Nestlé means little nest in German. After selling his company to three Swiss businessmen in 1875, sales and production of Nestlé goods increased drastically. By 1878, Nestlé had entered a fierce rivalry with the Anglo-Swiss company, and both started selling versions of each other's original products, the condensed milk and infant cereal respectively. Following the death of George Page in 1882, the Anglo-Swiss company sold its US-based operations. This paved the way for a merger between Anglo-Swiss and Nestlé 10 years later in 1902. Nestlé began selling chocolate products 2 years after that, and, well, the rest is history. Interestingly, Nestlé's headquarters is still based in the town of Vevey in Switzerland, which is where Henri Nestlé produced and distributed his farine lactée 155 years ago. In terms of sales, Nestlé has gone from strength to strength. They now claim to have more than 2,000 brands, from global icons to local favorites. In addition to baby food and chocolate, among its products you can find everything from bottled water to breakfast cereals, coffee and tea, confectionery, dairy products, frozen food, medical food, snacks, the list goes on. In fact, if you own a pet, then there's a good chance that they've also indulged in a Nestlé-owned treat too, since Purina Pet Foods is a part of their expanding lineup, as well as creating and selling their own branded goods such as Nescafé, which have been going since 1938, and is a portmanteau of the words Nestlé and café if you never realized. Nestlé regularly pays for the rights to distribute products from other well-established brands and businesses. You might be surprised to know that Nestlé profits from sales of Starbucks coffee at-home products. That's because they struck a deal worth $7.15 billion in 2018 that gave Nestlé the rights to market, sell, and distribute Starbucks packaged coffee and tea in all global at-home and away-from-home channels. When the deal was expanded in 2021, David Rennie, head of Nestlé Coffee Brands, announced, "Our partnership with Starbucks has confirmed Nestlé's leading position in the global coffee business." Nestlé profits from the sales of Häagen-Dazs in a similar way. If you search for the owners of Häagen-Dazs in the US, you'll find that it's owned by a company called Froneri. However, if you dig deeper, then you'll discover that Froneri is 50% owned by Nestlé. Other 50-50 joint ventures include a deal with General Mills to produce breakfast cereals as part of Cereal Partners Worldwide, a deal with Colgate-Palmolive to develop and market oral care gums and lozenges in Britain and Ireland, and a now-defunct partnership with Coca-Cola as part of Beverage Partners Worldwide. This is why Nestlé is a whole lot bigger than many people realize, because even if their logo isn't evident on a product's packaging, they often own shares of the company whose logos you do see. As of June 2022, Nestlé has a market cap of $321.92 billion US, making it the 22nd most valuable company in the world. That places it higher than other global brands such as Unilever, which has a market cap of just under $118 billion, PepsiCo $229.7 billion, and Coca-Cola $273.28 billion. If you venture over to Nestlé's official website today, you'll be presented with a family-friendly vibe that preaches inclusivity, making the world a better place, and a lot of other wholesome stuff. The company motto is "Good Food, Good Life," and its mission statement is to unlock the power of food to enhance quality of life for everyone, today and for generations to come. That's all fine and good, but you get the feeling that they're trying just a little too hard to impress. It's almost as if they're trying to make up for past wrongs. All credit to them for providing a link on their homepage to an annual report which outlines their financial performance and the progress they have made towards meeting their societal commitments. And well done for inviting people to speak up about your concerns under the heading Compliance Concerns. But while browsing the site, you're kind of forced to ask yourself, why is this necessary for a company like Nestlé that sells sweets and baby milk? Well, if you know a bit about Nestlé already, then you can probably see where I'm going with this. I mean, when the longest section of a company's Wikipedia page is dedicated to controversy and criticisms, that doesn't exactly bode well. A quick search of the words Nestlé and evil into YouTube or Google will lead you down a rabbit hole that can take hours to emerge from. There are many videos and articles solely about the evil deeds of this so-called soulless corporation. In the interests of time and sanity, here's a quick recap of controversies that Nestlé has been involved in. Baby formula boycott. For a company that started off by making baby milk alternatives, having buyers and national government organizations or NGOs boycott your breast milk substitutes is not a good look. Problems first arose in the 1970s when Nestlé was accused of aggressive marketing, wherein they discouraged mothers from breastfeeding and claimed that Nestlé's baby formula was healthier without any evidence to back it up. Then, in the 1990s, a Pakistani whistleblower released a report that claimed Nestlé was encouraging doctors to promote infant formula over natural breastfeeding. Nestlé denied the allegations. In May 2011, 19 Laos-based international NGOs, including Save the Children, Oxfam, Care International, Plan International, and World Vision, launched a boycott of Nestlé with an open letter. The letter started with the following: "We won't be applying for your prize money, Nestlé. Your marketing of formula milk still jeopardizes the health of infants and children in Laos." It went on to detail how the company had breached health protocols and set about multiple ways in which Nestlé could improve its business practices. This includes translating labeling and health information into local languages and ceasing to give incentives to doctors and nurses for promoting the use of infant formula. Slavery and child labor. When the cocoa industry came under the spotlight in 2005, the International Labor Rights Fund filed a lawsuit against Nestlé and other chocolate-producing companies on behalf of 3 Malian children. Allegedly, the children were trafficked to the Ivory Coast, forced into slavery, and were frequently beaten while working on a cocoa plantation. In 2010, the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California found that corporations could not be held liable for violations of international law and dismissed the lawsuit. This was a very controversial decision. A report by the Fair Labor Association revealed multiple serious violations, where Nestlé hadn't carried out checks against child labor and abuse. What's more, many injuries caused by machetes used to harvest cocoa pods were reported. Nestlé responded to the report by saying, "No company sourcing cocoa from the Ivory Coast can guarantee that it doesn't happen, but we can say that tackling child labor is a top priority for our company." Water scandal. At one point in time, Nestlé was the world's largest producer of bottled water. It dropped to third in 2020. However, they were in hot water, pun intended, when former chairman Peter BRABECK-LETMATHE appeared to state that water was not a human right. His words when translated were, "There are 2 different opinions on the matter. The one opinion, which I think is extreme, is represented by the NGOs, who bang on about declaring water a public right. That means that as a human being, you should have a right to water. That's an extreme solution." The backlash from this comment by the public was severe, so much so that on the Ask Nestlé section of the company's website, there is a page titled, "Does Peter BRABECK-LETMATHE believe that water is a human right?" The answer, according to Nestlé, is that he does. The company states that his critics used a video interview that Peter gave in 2005 to claim that he thinks all water sources should be privatized. This is false. He supports the United Nations view on water. There is enough fresh water on the planet for 7 billion people, but it is distributed unevenly and too much of it is wasted, polluted, and unsustainably managed. However, at the Second World Water Forum in 2000, Nestlé lobbied to make access to drinking water a need rather than a right. That's not the only scandal surrounding Nestlé and water, though. It appears that they had been sourcing water from the San Bernardino National Forest in California without a permit since 1988. When this was discovered, they were allowed to keep working for a measly $524 annual fee and were bumped to the front of the queue for a permit. Pollution. Most large companies are forced to deal with issues regarding pollution, but being so huge, Nestlé comes in for a lot of attention. One example is when a 1997 report from the UK found that in a single year, water pollution limits were breached 2,152 times in 830 locations by companies that included both Cadbury and Nestlé. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Ethiopian debt. In 2002, Nestlé made a bit of a faux pas in demanding that Ethiopia pay them back a debt of $6 million. At a time when Ethiopia was suffering extreme famine, it wasn't the most tactful of moves, especially when you consider that Nestlé owns more than 20 brands that each make over $1 billion annually. There have been various health concerns around Nestlé products over the years, mislabeling items and promoting unhealthy foods as healthy. Plus, there have been price-fixing fiascos and a wealth of other controversies which really hasn't endeared Nestlé to the public. No wonder they're trying so hard to modernize and revamp their image. As for whether it will have any effect when it comes to winning back people's trust, who knows? They're certainly not struggling to make a profit. Does Nestlé's checkered past and the fact that they own so many products concern you? Should it concern you? Be sure to let us know in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be the first to be notified of new behind the business videos we post every week. Be inspired, and we will see you in the next one. Since you made it all the way to this point, here are 2 more videos that YouTube thinks you are going to love. Go on, click on it, and let's see if they're right.